Welcome everyone. We are going to get started. This is our third, so exciting, our third Career Builder Series session of 2026. Nice to see some familiar faces and names. And for those of you who are new to us, welcome, welcome. We hope you will return. If you know us at Career Connections and have been to any of our in-person or virtual sessions, I have to give a little bit of a shameless plug and let you know that Insurance Career Connections, we are a division of the Insurance Institute of Canada. Our main mandate is to educate those folks who are not in the insurance industry, let them know a little bit about insurance, connect them with, our industry professionals, have coffee chats. We run a number of different events across Canada. And hopefully, armed with that information, all of you will hopefully join our workforce and choose one of the wonderful careers within our midst. We are going to introduce our panel in a moment, but I also did want to pause here for a moment for another one of our exciting initiatives that we're doing. We are about to launch an insurance job platform, which will be an insurance-specific job platform. So for those folks who ask us all the time, who's hiring? Where are the jobs? This is like a one-stop shop. So if you have a moment, take a picture of the QR code, or you can certainly follow up with me afterwards, and make sure that you get your profile on there. We're about to launch on April 13th, but we're getting everyone excited, both employers and career seekers, to both participate in this great new initiative that we have. For all of the wonderful things that Insurance Career Connections does, we have a lot of boasting that we do about our industry. We know that there's over 140,000 Canadians working in the P&C sector. And the great thing that you'll hear from our professionals tonight, our great panel, is that most of our industry love what they do. We know that from the last demographic research, 86% enjoy, they understand the mission, and most people stay within the insurance industry. And that's pretty guaranteed. I've talked to many professionals over the years, and it's pretty consistent. We're a very diverse industry, and this is part of the work that Career Connections does. So to talk and get into what we're talking about tonight, I mentioned that this is our third career builder. So in January, we had the privilege of diving into life and health sciences. Last month in February, we were talking about aviation and marine risks. And as you see from the slide, P&C sector offers and touches so much. And for tonight's session, we wanted to talk with the mysterious, I call it the mysterious world of Lloyd's, and also MGAs. And so we have this fantastic panel with us tonight to help us break down some of the myths, help you understand. And just so you know, again, because Career Connections works with folks who are outside of the industry, just to set the stage, we are talking a really brief overview of those areas. So for those colleagues that might be joining us online, know that we're really simplifying things for this evening for those folks who don't know too much about these really unique areas of our industry. So I'm going to have our panel give a really brief intro on themselves, just in terms of their title, company, and what you hope for the audience to take away from our discussion today. MaryKate, I'll start with you.
Sure, thank you. It's lovely to be here. My name is MaryKate Townsend. I am the head of market development for Lloyd's in Canada. So I work for the Corporation of Lloyd's of London, but represent Lloyd's here on the ground in Canada. And I've worked at Lloyd's now for about 3 years in this role, and we'll get into a little bit more about what I do later on. I've been a broker. I've worked at an MGA for almost 10 years, so I've worn a few different hats in the industry. So bring a little bit of experience and perspective to this conversation, which I'm very excited to have. And what I really hope for the audience to take away is that, Lloyd's is a little complicated at times, but it really isn't. And they're really, we're here on the ground for a reason. We want to support you in your journey, and we want to make sure you have an understanding and a easy access to Lloyd's if you're a broker or if you are working at an MGA. I'm just a phone call away.
Awesome. Thanks, Mary-Kate. Petra, over to you.
My name is Petra. Currently, I am with Aon, which is a multinational brokerage, vice president commercial brokering, senior broker. And in my most recent role before this, I was with an MGA in that role for about 4.5 years. So I've had various interactions with Lloyd's of London and have worked with Lloyd's in different capacities over the last few years. And I would say my hopes and dreams for everyone out of this is just kind of an appreciation of how interesting and varied the industry is, Lloyd's of London especially, and maybe pique your interest in learning more about the insurance industry and enjoying it because we're pretty fun and it's pretty interesting.
Wonderful. Thanks for that. Marius, over to you.
Yeah, Petra, I agree there. Insurance, definitely, it is a fun industry. And I think I do the fun part of the industry. So for most of my insurance career, I've been involved in business development, and I'm currently the assistant vice president of Trinity Underwriting, which is an MGA of which we'll talk to about more tonight. Here in Canada, specializing in specialty risks. So my job, basically, I go out, I spread the gospel about what makes our company great, why brokers should bring their business to us. And in my role, I think it's a fun role because I get to meet new people and speak to new people and new faces on a day-to-day basis, which sort of, if you were to put me behind a computer, I'd probably die. So for me, it's the perfect fit because I'm still in an industry that I love and I get to speak with people like you on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you for that. Marius, just fun fact, just off topic.
Oh, yeah.
I have the accent in my ear, the South African accent there. We happen to have a wonderful gentleman from South Africa in our last session last month. So
oh, yes.
Just a little bit of irony there. We have this South African connection.
There are more of us than you would think. And I never realized it until I immigrated here 5 years ago. I thought I'm going to be one of a handful of people because as a South African, if you think of Canada, well, certainly I just thought of the great tundra. And nobody in their right mind would come and live here. And then I came and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. And then I realized actually how many South Africans there are.
So that's great. So thank you all for that little intro. And just to, again, set the stage for the folks that are on here tonight, we're going to cover a whole wide variety of topics. And so just in case you're wondering, if your questions are going to get answered, we will leave some time at the end. But just to kind of give you a snapshot of all the different areas we might be talking about today, rest assured, we will make sure that you have a wonderful overview of Lloyd's and MGA. So I'm going to just stop my sharing for a moment here, and we'll talk to our panel. And I think, Mary-Kate, this is a good place to start because I think it's a unique story, and I think it just kind of sets the stage again for tonight. But take us on a journey back in time, just about the origin story of the term underwriter and how Lloyd's came to be.
Yeah, it all started in a coffee shop. So it was right after the Great Fire of London, and coffee was a new popular drink, and coffee shops became sort of the hub of where it was the place to conduct business. It's where all the trades were happening, and it goes back to 1688 was the very first mention that we've been able to track down where Edward Lloyd's coffee shop was first mentioned. So decades later, there was this reputation that was being built for a place for shipping news. So mariners would come in and talk about, ships that they were sending out on voyages and cargo that they would have to deliver on these journeys. And so this this coffee shop behind kind of became recognized as a source for marine insurance. So they became experts on, departures, arrivals, where the pirates were operating. Like people came there just to talk about this sort of thing. The term underwriter originates from a ship owner or ship owners who would go to that coffee shop with a sheet of paper describing the ship that they own, the voyage it needs to take, where it needs to go, and the cargo that was on board, and how much they needed in order to secure that risk. So if it didn't come back, how are they going to cover those costs? And some of the people in the coffee shop would say, "Oh, here, give me the sheet," and they'd sign their name underneath the line. They became underwriters by signing their name and for a portion of the risk that they were willing to take on or the share that they were willing to take on for that particular risk. So that's still, that practice still carries forward today in modern day trading on the Lloyd's floor, which I think we're going to talk about a little bit later. But yeah, a little bit of history on underwriter, in case you ever wondered where it came from.
I think it's an interesting story, and I think, just because Lloyd's has such a deep, deep history, it's a nice place to start. And then on the flip side, we've been tossing around the acronym MGA, and I wanted to, I'll throw it out to any of you just to kind of give us like what that acronym stands for, what it means, etc. Who wants to take that?
Do you want to jump in, Marius?
Yeah, I
Take that
can.
one.
And please, Mary-Kate,
And
stop me if I'm going totally off the rail here. But so MGA, Managing General Agent, we are sort of an agent, I would imagine, for Lloyd's. So Lloyd's, obviously, it is based in London for most part, and they've got a team of specialist underwriters sitting in this very imposing modern sort of building. And I always think of Lloyd's as the Costco of insurance. So you can't just walk in without a membership. And, and as an MGA, we would be a member with a syndicate. Now with a Lloyd's syndicate, it's basically a bunch of underwriters who sit there and say, we want to have more exposure into a certain risk in a certain part of the world. You'll have an MGA such as us, a managing general agent, who'd go to Lloyd's with our card and say, well, yes, we are a member of the syndicate. We want to give you exposure into a certain risk. And I'm just saying it from our Trinity side, for example. Let's go in to Lloyd's and say, well, yes, we have got strong underwriting skills in technology, in health and medical. So we would like to do this in Canada. Lloyd's then would give a certain capacity for us or within certain parameters to say, this is within these parameters, you can go out into the wild and you can start giving us business. So in my opinion, and that's basically what an MGA is, we work as an agent for Lloyd's. We don't necessarily cover or carry the risks ourselves, because that's where Lloyd's come in. They are the money bags, that Mr. Monopoly of the insurance world. So they ultimately pay the claim. But through the MGA, we are the ones who give you the specialist underwriting and skills in order to give the Lloyd's syndicate good business to ultimately, hopefully, make them a profit as well.
Wow. That's great.
I would go just a little step further in through the terminology and their delegation of authority. So when you're referring to being an agent of that syndicate, that's the syndicate or the managing agent is delegating authority to you in Canada for all those reasons that you just explained, because you're the experts and you know the geography and you have the relationships in Canada and the distribution partners on the ground here in Canada, like Petra, for example. You might use Aon as a distribution partner. So delegation of authority to underwrite risk on someone else's balance sheet using their capital to support the risk and pay the claims in a nutshell.
In a nutshell. That's great. And Petra, I wanted you to jump in just from your relationship and how you interact with Lloyd's and you've had your past life with MGA and current with Aon. Describe that for us.
Sure. I will add one thing since we're talking about MGAs and Lloyd's. MGAs don't necessarily only represent Lloyd's syndicates. They may also have contracts with other local insurers and be using those money bags, if you will, then.
That's true.
Very true.
Yeah, so MGAs don't always only represent Lloyd's, but there are others as well. Same difference, same thing, just something to keep in the back of your mind should you be interested in this wonderful world.
Yeah.
So my past life within the MGA sphere. Sorry, I have a cat here.
Join the conversation.
I've got one here.
His conversation is going to be feed me. Sorry about that. So my background is commercial insurance, commercial underwriting. And about 5 years ago, I moved into, I was working for BrokerLink, which is a national brokerage here that is a retail broker, deals direct with commercial clients that need coverage for their business and operations. And I moved into their Lloyd's of London cover holder team as an underwriter. So just like we've talked about, it was my job to be the expertise, the subject matter expert, in and assess risk as they came in. And in many cases, we did have contracts with set authority, set of guidelines. We did that. We underwrote, we priced, we issued the documents, all the admin fun stuff like that. And then about 2.5 years ago, we merged our Lloyd's of London cover holder team with our actual MGA team. So when we were just the Lloyd's of London team, we were only distributing to BrokerLink brokers, so internal, nobody else. And then with the MGA, we would have contracts with other brokerages and we could distribute the product both to our own brokers and other brokerages. So in many ways, if anyone's attended just general insurance underwriter and have heard like local underwriters talk, in many ways, it is the same setup as an underwriter. You know, if I worked for a domestic, it would be my corporate underwriting team telling me what the guidelines are, what I'm allowed to do, my pricing, the documents, what my wordings are. But in this case, they're across the pond. And I have so much authority, and if I need to refer something or get sign off, then I go to London, and that's where it differs a little. If it was domestic, I would go to my colleague down the hall and get their sign off. Whereas working within the MGA space, I would refer to my London broker because the MGAs don't typically. It gets gray area and everyone's a little bit different. I don't deal directly necessarily with the syndicates. I have to get to them because it's a many layered process through a London broker. And at the MGA that I was at, we actually had 2 London brokers that we worked with. And on the referrals that I was doing, because we did have the pen and we just needed some authority or referral, you know, either I'd go direct to my London broker and talk about it and they'd go to the underwriter and the syndicate, or I would go direct to the syndicate. And then on the other side, if it was new business, something we didn't know anything about, we had to access it through another London broker and they went to the syndicates, whether it was ones that they had contracts with, so they could just use their authority, again, many layers, doing some of the same things. And then, or you could go to open market and they would go syndicate desk by desk and get the participation we needed and the terms and conditions. And they would feed that down through us and we would prepare it. And then we would feed it down to the local broker to present to the actual client. So it was
That's a lot.
it's
a
a lot
lot.
of layers. And
Layers,
it can be
layers.
so confusing in your head. And that's why I say if you have any experience or have heard local underwriters talk, it can actually be fairly similar. And sometimes it makes it a little bit easier just to think of it as your corporate people telling you what you can and cannot do, and then
Yeah.
them turning around and gain you a little bit more if you need it.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think that's great to point out because it leads me to actually Mary Kate, like given this overview that we have of the MGA space and Lloyd's, I think it's worth kind of now talking about maybe what you do, as Marius called you the money bags, to talk about what you do for Lloyd's.
Yeah, no problem. And just to clarify on that, Lloyd's itself is not the capital provider. We're not the money bags. It's the market's money. So first and foremost, Lloyd's is a marketplace. We're not an insurance company. So you might hear of like Aviva's and Intact, right? Those are insurance companies in Canada. Lloyd's is a marketplace. The syndicates that make up Lloyd's, there's about 100 of them. They act as independent as insurance companies themselves. So we are the corporation overseeing 100 insurance companies essentially. So if you think of Lloyd's as like the best the best shopping mall in the world, like the greatest, most incredible shopping mall, high-end stores, and all of the shops within the mall are syndicates, right? They all have a different product and the money and the products to distribute. They all have an independent manager overseeing the functions of that store and deciding who to trade their products with. Those we call managing agents, not to be confused with managing general agents. This is a very specific Lloyd's term. Managing agents manage the syndicate's funds and they will decide who it is that they are going to delegate the authority to. They will decide who they're going to do business with. But you as a broker or you as a policyholder, for example, you can't go shopping at the mall. Like Marius said, Costco, you need a membership. To shop at this Lloyd's shopping mall, you need a personal shopper, and that's where that Lloyd's broker comes in. So the Lloyd's broker knows where to go to seek that product that you're looking for to fulfill your client's needs. So if it's something very specific, like some complex space satellite risk, for example, they're going to know what desk to walk to and go talk to that capacity provider, that syndicate, to find that coverage to help kind of build it out. And if they don't get 100% of the coverage that they need from that specific syndicate, they're going to walk over to the other syndicate's desk, like Petra said, and they're going to take that sheet of paper, like they did in the coffee shop in the old days, and say, okay, so, Syndicate A is willing to give me 25% to insure this risk. So what will you do? And then they might say, well, I'm good for 10. So now they have 35. So they just repeat this until they can build out an entire slip for 100% of the risk. So, or if they can't get the entire capacity within Lloyd's, they can go to another market as well. So that's the beauty of Lloyd's. So when we work with, or when the syndicates or the managing agents are delegating authority to MGAs in Canada, they're asking them to, or they're trusting them to underwrite business in a controlled manner. So they're setting parameters pursuant to a binding authority agreement. So we call that a binder. And they will say, you can write this much business. This is your threshold. Here's the box. You can't go outside of the box. And if you need to, if something really unique comes up, we're not opposed to it, but you got to bring it to us and we'll make that decision, because they have to reserve for all of these risks in case they happen in the future, right? So it's all about capital setting and making sure there's money there to pay the claims at the end of the day, because that's the promise insurance that we're making, is to pay the claims at the end of the day.
Yeah, that helps break it down. And then your role between Canada and Lloyd's.
So I'm on the ground, essentially boots on the ground here in Canada, right? So I know the marketplace well. I see some familiar names and faces on the screen here today, and thanks for coming out. And I know them from across the Canada. So my experience and my networking, my group of people that I know across the region, it just allows me to call on them if I need something, or if I need to find out what's going on in the insurance industry, what's new on the west coast of Canada. I could call Mo, or I could call, where did she go? I saw Catherine, Britnell. I can call on these people that I know on the other side of the country
Yeah,
and say, what's going
Kate.
on in your neck of the woods? Hi, Catherine. So, just being able to be on the ground and be that conduit of information back and forth between London and Canada. And Canada's business is made up of about 60% of MGA's business. So a lot of delegated authority is happening in Canada. That's a significant amount of premium. So I have working relationships with the majority of the MGAs that have Lloyd's capacity so that, if they are struggling with issues around regulations, we have a team on the ground. I can see one of my colleagues here on the call, Catherine Kading. People can call on us here on our team of 12 people in Canada to support them and in all of their operations here in Canada. And on the flip side, people in the UK will call me and say, what's going on in the Canadian industry? What do I need to know? Or what are you hearing? I want to grow my business in Canada. This syndicate might say, or the managing agent might say, I really want to do business in, Saskatchewan. What do you know about that region? Who can you introduce me to? So, aside from that, a lot of education is really important and events like this so that I can help people understand how the Lloyd's market works and how you can access the Lloyd's market, whether through a broker or an MGA or direct to Lloyd's, depending on the role that you hold.
For sure. That's helpful. It makes me jump to Marius because you're in business development, working for Trinity. Describe your role and specifically how the work that your company does and how you drum up business.
Yeah. So I can definitely do that. So Trinity, we're a independent MGAs, and there are different types. There are some. Petra, you for example, working at Aon. Aon has its own internal MGA as well, which means that a lot of the Aon brokers will funnel a chunk of business through that MGA. We are independent, and for us, because we don't have this big broker network already internal to supply us a steady stream of business, it is the job of marketing / business development to go out there to see brokers and to tell them a little bit more about what we as an MGA do, how we are different from our competitors, what makes us unique, whether it's our expertise, our local expertise based here in Canada to do the underwriting for you at a fast and expedient turnaround time, or whether it is our commissions that's maybe a little bit more competitive than some of our competitors out there. My job is literally to tour the country, build strong, solid relationships with brokers, and make them trust Trinity as a brand to give their client the best possible solution within our expertise range. So I go out, I see brokers, I tell them a little bit more about us. I help them whenever there's a niche risk that comes across their desk. They might not know where to place it. It's my job to educate. So what we do also is we've got these Rebo for the guys on the call that's not in insurance yet. It's like a lot of your other professional industries. You have to have continuous development courses that you have to do on a year-to-year basis, just to make sure that you're always up to date with current trends and that they know that your license is actually earned. So part of my job is also education. So I would go out, I would give the brokers these courses, whether it's training in professional liability or directors and officers liability, just to make them also aware of what it entails, how it affects their client, or how it will affect their client if they don't have that typical risk. And then obviously, yes, I have to plug my own company. So I will tell them all this wonderful information, but then I'll also tell them how we are great at giving them that particular cover.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for that. And Petra, I know you started to mention it earlier, but can you just clarify or expand upon what Marius was talking about, internal versus external distribution? there's a lot of terminology that I think we're hearing tonight, and I just wanted you maybe to expand upon that for us.
I mean, as an underwriter with Lloyd's authority within the MGAs, your job is your job it is to properly assess the risk, offer terms and conditions within the box that you've been given within those binder contracts. Differences really are you offering it to other employees of your company or to employees of other brokerages as well? Because some MGAs, like with Aon, we have an MGA links, and they only provide coverage and they only offer terms and conditions to other Aon brokers. But then on the flip side, we also have a London broker, Aon London, who only works with Aon brokerages and offices around the world, really. And then you would have London brokers or local MGAs that will work with everyone and distribute to other brokerages. So, but as an underwriter, you might have a little bit more pressure if it's all internal because you all work for the same people in the end. But as an underwriter, it doesn't drastically change what your role is and what you do.
Yeah,
Your authority is your authority.
that's great. MaryKate, from a Lloyd's perspective, I think we can talk a little bit about risks and maybe claims delegation side of things. So from the Lloyd's perspective, can you share some examples and maybe touch upon generalists versus the niche folks, like Marius had mentioned, so that, for our audience that may or may not know the importance of having these MGAs that are specialized to even certain regions of Canada?
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of MGAs kind of offer all sorts of PNC insurance. They might offer property coverage. They might, specialize in large complex construction risks. But then they might also have a full team of underwriters who specialize in professional liability. So we would maybe lump them together as generalists. They offer a little bit of everything. They've got teams or that, buckets of expertise in certain classes of business. And or just underwriters that are really knowledgeable in multiple classes of business. But then there are MGAs that exist out there that specialize in just one class of business. So, for example, where I used to work, I spent 10 years of my life underwriting yachts and pleasure craft marine risks, and that's it, just in Canada. So I thought it was really fun, but it was very specialized, right? And it was important. The syndicate or the managing agents, they knew people that delegated authority to us knew that we were on the ground and we knew our region. So I was focused on central Canada, for example. So Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, lots of water there, but it's a lot of small waterways. They knew that I knew my market and I knew my audience. I knew what my risks, what kind of boats I would be insuring, smaller fishing boats, right? Pontoon boats, that kind of thing. Whereas somebody on the West Coast in my West Coast office, they have an all year round season and ocean exposure. So we have a whole different team of specialists that sit in that office underwriting risks on that side of the country versus those that sat in my office in Ontario underwriting small fishing boats, pontoon boats on a seasonal basis because when the winter hits, our boats go away. So they really trusted that we had that expertise and they really geographically asked us they put a lot of trust in us that we knew our business in those regions. Um, some of the MGAs will have a national focus, so they'll be, not just limited to Ontario, for example, but others might just want to specify or specifically underwrite business in a certain jurisdiction because that's where their strengths sit. So a lot of different avenues there. When it comes to claims, same idea with delegation of underwriting authority. sometimes Lloyd's will delegate claims authority to an MGA who has the expertise to handle claims in-house. They also need licensing and compliance with the adjuster licensing requirements across the regions as well. But they might have a team in-house that can handle that. And so they will also potentially get claims authority and they'll have limitations. So they might have $50,000 of authority in order to settle claims within a certain parameter. Anything above and beyond that would then be referred back to the syndicate to make a final decision and dispense the funds. So very similar concept, but very specialized as well.
Wow.
MaryKate, I find it so interesting that you said, so your previous life you did just yachts and boats and things.
Yeah.
So marine,
So
not
fun.
our jam at all, but we do like technology. So we had a client or a broker who came with a risk to us, and I don't think we're going to underwrite it, but it's still we are sort of ruminating. It is for technology that you know the self-park cars, you can literally press a button and the thing does the 3-point turn and it parks your car. So they do that now for large yachts as well, and it's scaring us. So we're like, I don't know if we're ready for that yet, but it shows how quick technology actually
Yeah.
catches up with things and what you can do these days with it.
It's true. One thing about boats, they don't have brakes like cars.
That's the
So
thing. That's the thing. So
yeah,
it does make us nervous. And even if you do park a boat, there's a little bit of bump and grind going on the side. So yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting field for sure. So I enjoyed it.
Wow. So here at Career Connections, of course, we always have to just talk a little bit about your career story and how you got started, because there's folks in our audience either that are maybe early career and making a transition, they want to go into other parts of our industry, or folks who are just getting started. So curious to hear from all of you just how you got your start, very briefly. I know you all have long careers, but briefly, kind of the steps that made you get to where you are. MaryKate, I'll start with you just here.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm not sure in your audience how many people are sort of second career entrants into the insurance industry, but I certainly am a result of that. So after high school, went into post-secondary, and I pursued horticulture and landed a job in parks and recreation with a small municipality fresh out of college. And I spent some time there, parks in the summer, which was great. And in the winter, again, Ontario, you've all lived through it, or many of you have probably lived through this seasonal temperatures this year and the snow. I would go inside of the arena, and I would sort of the staff would all go into the arena for the winter, and I would drive the Zamboni, and I would be the refrigeration technician for the plant that produced the ice, and then go back out in the summer, and then I go back in the arena. And then one day, the municipality that I worked for built a twin pad facility, so two arenas, and more significant refrigeration technology, and therefore they needed a qualified engineer to oversee the operations of the plant, which I was successful in passing the exam. So I then became 12 months a year working in the arena. No more parks, and that's where my heart was initially. So, and then I had children, and I was gone weekends, late nights. It was a steady income, but I just didn't have a good quality of life with young children. So I left the arena business, tried my hand at landscaping for a while. Again, really loved it, but just had no future there. So one day I decided I needed to be home to put my girls to bed and read them stories, and that was really important to me. So I sought a job that would be sort of 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. I laugh about that now because it's very not consistent with my day to day. But I started answering the phone at State Farm, just administrative. There was a lot of opportunities to get a license there, so they encouraged education. They encouraged my upskilling, so I became a licensed agent and then worked on some claims there. I moved on from a direct writer at State Farm to the broker industry. Spent some time in sort of a mid-market VIP sector in the personal lines, And hence where I met my future employer in the pleasure craft space, because I built a relationship with that underwriter, and we met at networking events, and then months later an opportunity came up, and I was successful in landing that position and went through the ranks until I was promoted to VP, and at one point CEO of the marine brokerage sister company. And I've always been involved in associations, so brokers associations. Once I retired from, president and chair of the London Insurance Brokers Association, CAMGA came along, which is the Canadian Association of Managing General Agents, and then asked me to join their board, and I was the first elected president on that board for the 2-year term. Met my now boss and had a lot of synergies, and was able to demonstrate my network was broad, and had a lot of opportunities to build relationships there, and so here I am 3 years later.
Short but long, right?
Yeah, all over about 18 years.
That's amazing. That's great. Petra, what's your story in terms of your career journey?
Long, long as well. I had moved to Calgary, and I had friends that worked at a couple of different insurance companies, and they encouraged me to apply. They were all having lots of fun and talking about all the networking events. And since I was in my early 20s, well, that sounded quite interesting and like something I could put my Bachelor of Commerce towards as a recent graduate with not a heck of a lot of experience. So I joined a national insurance company as a commercial lines underwriting trainee, which was a 2-year program that they offered to learn how to be an underwriter. I finished the program. I moved to their Toronto office, continued to underwrite again, commercial lines. I actually started in farm underwriting, which is kind of an interesting one. I still remember the rates per $100 worth of a cow, 39 cents, in case anyone's wondering.
Nice.
So I moved to Toronto. I underwrote there for a few more years. Going green, I managed a team when the company was getting rid of all the paper files, because everyone used to have many, many rooms of many, many, many pieces of paper of policies and documents. And then from there, I went to corporate commercial lines and got to do some really interesting things there. I worked with other trainees, like overseeing the trainee program, learning and development of our underwriters, auditing of our underwriters, all in all to make everyone better underwriters, also to make sure that they were following their authority and the guidelines.
Of course.
Because it doesn't matter whether it's Lloyd's of London or a domestic, everyone wants to make sure you're following the rules. From there, I managed their small business team of underwriters for a couple of years. I'm from Nova Scotia. I'm from Halifax, and in about 2018, I thought it was about time to come home, beating the COVID rush. And that's when I made the move from being on the insurance company side to the brokerage side. Managed a team of commercial brokers for about a year and a half. And then I decided to switch out of management, and I went back to front of the lines account manager. So working with an account executive or a broker or producer, because we all have 1,000 names for the same roles. But essentially working directly with the public, with our commercial clients, and then on the background, working with the insurance companies, whether it was MGAs or the Lloyd's of London team that we had internally. And then, like I said, about, I guess, 5 years ago now, I moved back to underwriting, and I went to work on their Lloyd's of London authority team, merging into the MGA space. And Bob's your uncle. Some time passed, and then last summer, I actually moved back to the brokerage side, but this time moving to Aon. So not working directly with commercial clients, but again, only handling commercial clients, but working in between the insurance companies and the MGAs, as well as our London brokers and the syndicates, to working with our account executives who then work with our actual clients. That is it in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, with a little bit of stories in between. Listen, I like asking this question because for folks that are on the line to really understand that a lot of our industry folks have the opportunity to move around to so many different areas as you want to, move back and forth, lateral, advance. And so it's just interesting to hear the stories and where people have landed. Marius, how about you?
Yeah, you're making a really good point, Beverly. So insurance, it's one of those industries where you can really do so much within the industry. And I've done so much in the industry. So years ago, when I was still very young and naive, I wanted to become a lawyer. And at the time, I was studying towards my LLB degree. My partner and I moved to London, where I then thought it's very posh and good for a resume to work for a good government organization. So I worked for Her Majesty's Court Services. After my 2 years in London, I've subsequently decided I don't really want to be a lawyer. So 3 years into the 4-year degree, I gave up and came back to South Africa. And I'm not one of those people who studied to become something in insurance or who put their hand up when it's career day in school and said, well, I'm going to be a broker. I fell into it. So when I came back to South Africa, obviously I needed a job. And you go to a recruitment agency and they test you on typing and data capturing and psychometric tests and all of those things. And then the lady placed me in an insurance company. And that was my first experience in insurance. So I worked for a big automobile insurer in their claims department. And I do think everybody needs to have a stint in claims. It's just one of those things because you will know exactly how the insurance industry works and what you can claim for and what you can't claim for. So it was an important lesson for me. I worked there for about 2 years, decided after that I'm going to dabble in investments. So I worked for an investment company up to about 2008, and then the big financial crisis hit and everybody was just losing money hand over fist. And I decided, well, insurance, I kind of liked it. So let's go to life insurance. Turns out I'm not that good a salesman. So the biggest policy I managed to sell was a life insurance policy I took out on my own life. And I gave it a good run. I gave it about 4.5 years. Decided, yes, I'm getting older and I'm never going to get the heights that I thought I'm going to do in life insurance. Not to say there's anything wrong with it. It just, it wasn't a job for me. So there started my business development career because I had a very good friend who worked for an MGA in Canada, and she was the head of the marketing or of business development there in South Africa, sorry. And she said to me, well, they need somebody with the gift of the gab to head up the office in Johannesburg. And with me, the trick has always been to get me to shut up. So I knew I could do the job, and I packed my bags from Cape Town and I went to Johannesburg and I started working for this wonderful MGA. Our claim to fame was commercial motor fleets. That's what we lived and breathed. And my job was to go to the big insurance companies, tell them all about, place, if you have a big corporate client with more than 20 vehicles, you need to place it with us. I did that, or I ended up doing that for about 9 years. The company for which I worked got tremendous growth. I think when I started working, we probably doubled and then doubled again in size. From the time that I started to the time that I finished, we won various insurance industry awards, and then COVID hit and I decided to move during COVID with my partner and our little cat. I'll show you there. He is keeping me company. To Canada. So with nothing but 4 suitcases and a dream, I came to Canada. But and now my computer's frozen. There we go. So I knew I love insurance and I still wanted to be in insurance. And I found my first apartment was downtown Toronto. And it was right in the middle of Aon on this side and Marsh on this side. Now, Beverly, Petra, I told you just before the meeting started, I'm not somebody to commute. So I knew whatever it takes, I'm going to work for either one of those companies because they are both a 2.5-minute walk from my condo. So it was still COVID. I couldn't go out and meet people face to face. So what I did is I started stalking people. I call it stalking, but it wasn't. I just connected with people over LinkedIn. And my sales pitch was, yes, I can't go out looking for jobs, but I know the insurance industry well. I would like 30 minutes of your time to tell you a little bit more about myself virtually and just to get your intake about who do I need to meet with? What do I need to do to become part of your organization? And as it turned out, one of those conversations was with the right person who actually needed somebody on their team at the time that I spoke with them. So there we went. And my first position was as an account executive at Aon, and marvelous, marvelous company. I worked there for about 3 years before the business development position then at Trinity opened up. And it's because it's an industry that I've always been passionate about, or a portion of the job that I've always been passionate about, and that I've been doing for really the better half of my career. I went running to that, and yeah, so far not looking back at all. But certainly, yes, for those of you wondering whether you should or not join insurance, there's no one job. It's not everybody becomes brokers. You get your actuaries, you get your claims people, you get people that's more customer focused. You get people that if you don't like to speak to people that much, you have other functions. So I think there's really spaces for everybody within the industry, and more importantly, it is recession proof. So where other companies, if the oil price tanks, people get laid off, they still need insurance. So I think from that part of the job, it does give you security to know, do you know what, I've got a job, unless I'm really bad at it and people let you go.
Wonderful. Listen, I should have asked you this off the top, but do you guys have like 10 minutes? I just, because there's some really interesting things I just want to end off the session with. So if Petra, Marius, or MaryKate, if you have to leave, I totally understand, but we're having a great conversation. I should have made this 2 hours. A couple of things that I think are important for this session. MaryKate, I wanted you to plug CAMGA. You did mention it earlier, but again, for people who are in the MGA space, and I know you can go to camga.ca and see many of the partners and members that are MGAs. But tell us a little bit about that particular association.
I think it's interesting because this conversation's been about MGAs, and there's many MGAs in Canada. Let's say, we'll say 100 true MGAs. Yes, we talked about Aon being internal and then external MGAs. So CAMGA represents the external MGAs that kind of stand alone on their own, and they're an association. So what they're doing is creating a body of advocacy so they can, the MGA sector is not heavily regulated. There's not a lot of consistency with regulations across the country in all the different various provinces and territories. So CAMGA is putting together an action plan to communicate with government officials and regulators and to discuss legislation. They are representing their membership when there's a challenge. One of the challenges I hear about all the time is audits. There's too many audits and they're not coordinated. So they're one voice for the greater community, and they'll come to us and communicate and say, can you do anything about this? So it's open communication. They're just a body of activists, and they're made up of their membership, and then they have a board of directors, which are people that work for various MGAs across the country. So not necessarily Lloyd specific, but MGAs that represent all different insurers.
Nice. Thank you for that. If anyone has any questions, feel free to type it into the chat, and we'll see if our panel here can answer some of those that might come through. But just on the theme of associations, networking, the fun side of our industry, Marius, I know you have created, or I don't know if that's the word, the first business development community in some way. Tell us a little bit about that.
I did. And please don't judge me. It's still a very small group, but it has to start somewhere. So yes, in these sort of insurance things, we see a lot of the same people at different conventions. And I've decided, well, there's like CAMGA, there's all sorts of associations for different parts of the industry. Business development didn't really have something like that. So I thought to myself, well, it's a fun way to sort of get the business development managing teams of either insurers or other MGAs just to get together. It doesn't have to be a lot of meetings or a very formal structure. The whole aim with it that I thought was to get these guys together. Every month we go for a drink and we basically discuss and see what are we seeing in our respective marketplaces, because as we've all now said, different MGAs do different things. So I might see something on the West Coast, technology is booming, or somebody else who specializes in strata insurance or property might see something happening in their industry. So it's a nice little get together for us to tell each other what we're seeing in the market, what we like of each other's classes of business. We're all in competition at the end of the day, but it's also, there's enough business to go around for us to keep it friendly. So I've created this group called the GTA Insurance Business Development Network, and it's a mouthful. I just couldn't think of anything else to call it. So far we've got about 8 different MGAs that's joined. I've only started it in January, and we've had 2 socials so far. But so far, it's really nice, and it also makes us get to know one another on a different level, and also get to understand the sort of strifes that each industry have, and what makes you get up in bed or out of bed in the morning, or what keeps you from going to sleep at night. So yeah, it's a fun part just to get people to sort of get together.
Get together. It's
I think it's
awesome.
interesting. I think it's a great idea. And one thing about this industry is it's very social, but in functions like that, or in those types of environments, I think it's important that we celebrate each other's successes as well, and that we identify opportunities, and just, somebody passes an exam or gets a promotion, and just to support each other. And it's a really tight-knit industry, and we do travel around the country with a lot of the same people. So it's nice to have that network and those relationships. Well then.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Petra, you're out and about. How about you? And you even mentioned, back in your 20s, it was the networking that, really attracted you to the industry. But fast forward to today, tell us a little bit about some of the networking that you do, associations that you're involved with, anything that our folks should look out for.
Sure. I mean, I've said this a couple of times. It's a fun industry. We're not stodgy bankers, not to throw shade or anything, but insurance is a lot of fun, and it is very much a community, whether or not we're competing with each other. It is also a very relationship-driven business, and relationships are important through the different intermediaries and companies. So the networking is a huge part of it. And every province has their own associations and events that they throw, whether they're annual or ad hoc. In Nova Scotia, we have a couple of really big ones that are quite popular. Was this the end of March? So in February, we had our annual wine and cheese, which is actually done by the Nova Scotian in Women's Association. which is a great organization, and there's one in every province, and that is a really popular one. And we have people come from all over the country to attend that one. So that one's always a lot of fun. There's a lot of curling events. There's a lot of young professional networks. One of my favorites when I lived in Toronto was their boat cruises that they did. If you like golf, it's a great industry to like golf. I think I'm going to have to like finally cave and get clubs and take some lessons.
You and me both.
Um, and then you have all the educational networking events. So you tie the pieces together, but whatever type of event it is, you will find people there in the industry to have fun with and to network and to learn from and to grow with. Like MaryKate said, we're going all around the country with each other. It's a very large industry, but it's also a very, very small industry. And yeah, everyone likes to have fun. We work hard. There's fun in the day to day of getting to learn about all the new things that are coming that you wouldn't get to learn about if you weren't in the industry, whether it's the AI or drugs that are coming out and the experiments, and we get to see it from a really different point of view. So whatever you enjoy doing, there is something fun that you can do. Or you can start your own fun, like Marius.
That's right. Thanks for that. Arjun has a question for the panel, and we can see how far that takes us and end it off there. But Arjun would like to know, looking back at the early stages of your careers, when you were a year or two into your roles, what did you do to grow professionally and start finding your niche within the industry?
I'd like to jump in there.
Sure.
So for me, it's always been important, and I know COVID has sort of thrown everything on its back, and people are used to working from home more often than not. Personally, the opinion that I've always had is, especially if you're starting out in your career, if you're an old president of a company, everybody knows you and you don't care. But if you're still a trailblazer who want to make it in the industry, you need to be seen. And to be seen via a computer, it's not enough. So my advice and my experience has always been, if you want to grow in your career and you want to be seen by the right people, you need to be in front of them. And you need to be in the office, speak to your managers, let them get to know you. Don't be afraid to ask questions. So rather than making a mistake, be the fool and ask the stupid question. I am a believer there are such things as stupid questions, but I ask them often, and I've got no shame about it. And it shows you're willing to learn. It shows you're there because you want to be there. So for me, it's really be in front of the people that you want, that you look up to and that you want to emanate to be like, and ask them and have them mentor you.
I would suggest also, to add to that great idea, get involved in associations. Petra mentioned young insurance professionals. I've sat on different brokers associations, CAMGA, if you work in the MGA sector. There's an association for everything. If you're business development, Marius has the association for you, right? So get yourself involved and show up at those events and show your best self and meet people, ask questions. And you never know, you could be shaking hands with your future employer.
Nice. Petra, there's a question for you in the chat, and I'm hoping you might be able to answer it. You did already. Awesome. Because I did want to touch on Ivanka's question as someone who's working in the industry. So Ivanka's in claims. What are strategic steps to transition into underwriting? Ivanka is fascinated with the underwriting world, but don't know how to find fit and where I could start.
If you're already in the industry, yay. But moving into underwriting, I don't know if you've done any of your CIP courses or anything like that, but perhaps one of the CIP courses that focuses on underwriting will let you dip your toes in so you can learn a little bit more without completely jumping ships and jumping roles. And within even just doing that, you can meet people. That's part of the networking, is doing that. So that can be a strategic way to reach into that part of the industry. I don't know if you're with a third party claims or a claims department within an insurance company. But if you are at one within an insurance company, attending other events or reaching out to your HR team or other people, underwriters, you can go for a little colleague coffee. And even if you are with a third party adjuster, reaching out to a local underwriter, doing some of the networking so you can learn a little bit more about it.
Thank you. Sorry, I was trying to figure out how to unmute. So yeah, I'm planning to do the CIP courses specifically on underwriting. It's just that, you know, sometimes when you work for like a really big organization, it's hard to connect with people. I don't even know where the underwriting department is. So
Feel you there.
yeah, but just wanted to kind of get a bit of an opinion. I'm in accident benefits claims, like auto accident benefits, and I just don't really know where to start my strategic path, but I appreciate your opinion on this.
You know, it's
Reach out
another
to your
good.
HR people. They should be able to direct you and connect you with someone internally. And
Set a curve.
be bold, reach out to LinkedIn
I was just
on
gonna
someone
say
that has an
LinkedIn.
underwriter in their thing. When I was in underwriting in Toronto, I had lots of people reach out and just be like, can we grab a coffee, or can we do a quick Teams thing, or can I send you a couple of questions? And I was
Don't be
always
shy.
happy to do that. And it's a relationship industry, and in general, we all like to talk and chat. So I think that would probably be a good start.
I will add though, so you mentioned that you've also started with the underwriting course at the CIP. I've done the underwriting as well as that advanced underwriting with the CIP. I'll be brutally honest, it's not going to make you an underwriter. Those courses, it gives you a wide sort of theoretical knowledge about the basics about what underwriting is, but are you going to be an expert underwriter walking out of it? No. So if you're already working for a large organization, yes, let it be known that you're interested in underwriting. And I'll take this from personal experience. We had a lady in our office who was on the administrative side, and she actually took a job at an underwriter as an underwriting assistant, and we were all taken aback because we never knew that she actually has any interest in underwriting, and we're an underwriter. So if she said something, we would have given her an opportunity. So if you're in a company and you have an underwriting department, find out who they are and tell them, listen here, this seems wonderful. Tell me a little bit more about what you do. Maybe shadow them for a bit and see a day in the life of what they do, the type of risk, how they look at it. If it's an engineer, for example, so let's say, for example, it's a civil engineer, look at what sort of pitfalls can there be that's going to cost the company money, because these are all sorts of things that an underwriter thinks of. Is, yes, how can we protect the client but still protect our book? And it's all about balancing those sort of risks, and underwriters are wonderful in doing that. And you're not going to learn unless you have hands-on experience or sit and do it. So the theoretical knowledge, wonderful, but get yourself out there and let it be known that you're interested in actual physical hands-on experience.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I've done the ultimate sin in keeping you over time. I do apologize, my panel. You guys are so wonderful and gracious. And to my audience, I'm sorry that we have gone over. I'm sure Marius, Petra, and MaryKate are accessible, available to connect on LinkedIn, perhaps. So that for those of you, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get to your questions, but perhaps you can certainly take the opportunity to reach out to our team. And MaryKate, thanks for offering your connection there with Arne. And thank you all for, again, attending our Career Builder series. Just a teaser for next month, we are talking about agriculture, farming risks. So please join us in April, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you again, Marius, Petra, and MaryKate. This was wonderful.
Thank you, everybody.
Pleasure.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right. Take
Cheers.
care.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night, everyone.